I think the right question to ask is how, as a marketing leader, I should be thinking about shifting from our organization just really in the prompt writing model to how is everything changing about the way that we work? It's absolutely the right question to ask. And if you think about how marketers and marketing leaders are thinking now, they are having to work in a world where AI agents are now acting on our behalf and increasingly on behalf of the customers that we serve. And so we are less about being tool administrators, right, of the ChatGPTs, of the Copilots of the world, and more about designing systems that actually enable humans to do what they are really good at and agents to do what they're really good at. And what that means is that as agents increasingly take on more of the execution, you're going to see humans moving more upstream, and they're going to need to spend more of their time understanding the data, looking at the insights, designing the strategy, writing the briefs. It should be about an 80-20 rule, 80% on strategy, 20% on execution. I also think that marketing leaders are going to have to shift the way they think about their teams, because instead of just managing humans, we're now managing agents, and you still have to treat agents in some ways like you would a human. You have to determine what to delegate. You have to teach them how to work. You have to course correct when they get something wrong. And so it's an interesting dynamic, but in a lot of ways, the things that we are doing is helping marketing leaders lead their organizations better.
Yeah, I think as you think about the future of websites, you look to traffic patterns. And more than half of visitors to websites today are AI agents browsing on behalf of humans. So I think if you restructure the intent of the website, it's to connect with your audience, which is now an AI agent working on behalf of the human. So I think brands need to think about both audiences. They need to think about how they serve their human visitor and also how they cater to an AI visitor working on behalf of the human.
I think I would tell any newer to career marketer there is so much opportunity for you in this space. I think, though, the hard part is that for most of us, we learned in this business by doing. We wrote the briefs, we did the research, we wrote the first drafts, we got feedback redlined, usually truly with a red pen, and then we course corrected, we adapted, and we learned along the way. Now, as we're outsourcing more of that execution work to agents, it's not so easy to teach somebody how to have discernment or judgment and understand exactly what does good look like. And so as a marketing leader, that is absolutely my job. But the thing that we have to do with our newer to career marketers, frankly, is we have to do the thing that is, I think, so valuable to any marketer: be in front of the customer, understand who our customers are, what their needs are, how they get their information, what they're looking for. When you have those great customer insights and you understand what your customers need, then you can bring that back and then utilize the agents. Again, 80-20 rule, 80% doing strategy, upstream, designing the briefs, understanding the insights, and then figuring out what the kinds of campaigns are that you want to run, and then letting AI do what it does best, which is execute.
As brands think about how to restructure around an agent-first internet, we try to help companies think about, well, what are humans searching for? How has the question and the prompt changed? So what are the topics people are searching for? How is your brand showing up? And what are the gaps in your content story? So matching content that might be missing from your website and finding ways to surface that. Often that involves integrating with the CMS or DAM stack to make sure that you can surface approved content to an audience, which is AI agents working on behalf of humans.
I think AI is going to play an increasingly important role across all aspects of the marketing function. It does absolutely play a role in creative ideation and development, all the way through content creation and then actual campaign execution. It's really interesting now because if you think about how this world in which we live, AI is both the creator of the content as well as the consumer. And so we have to understand that it's more than just creating a piece of ad copy or a long form blog post or YouTube video asset. AI really can play a tremendous role in helping us understand what types of content appeals to what kinds of audiences, and then how to make sure that we're getting that content to that audience in the moment that they need it. Every brand right now runs on content. That isn't changing. And in fact, I would tell you that it is more important for our content to appeal to the person who's consuming it. And so for me, when I think about kind of this world in which we live, especially now that we've got two audiences, right? We've got the human consumer who needs to see things in a certain way, and we've got the AI agent that has a very specific way of consuming content. We have to understand both and be able to adapt to both. And so I think in this world, there are so many ways in which AI is going to be infused into the function. I know that was a long one. You'll figure out what to kind of cut there, I'm sure.
So as you think about the models that are winning the attention of the, let's start over. As you think about what models are connecting most with consumers, it's starting to fragment, right? It used to be that Google was the front door to the internet, and Google remains the dominant player in AI search in that they have AI overviews, AI mode, Gemini. But we see a lot of traffic originating from Claude, from Perplexity still, from GPT's obviously the second largest player here. Claude's an interesting one because it relies a little bit less on web search and more on trained-in knowledge. And so some of our data studies have shown that humans are more likely to visit your website after a Claude activity because it might not have linked to your site, but your brand's being surfaced in the answer. So people are then Googling your brand after coming in from a platform like Claude.
The question about brand equity is an interesting one. And I think every CMO is now grappling with measurement because we no longer have complete authority over our brand. We certainly are responsible for how our brand is represented, but there are so many other inputs to how a brand it shows up, particularly when we are talking about a new channel like an AI answer engine. And so I think the traditional ways of measurement, so we can measure awareness, we can measure perception, share of voice, the things that we had historically, they are still important. They still matter, and we will continue to do them. However, now we need to understand, how is our brand showing up in an AI answer engine? And not only is it showing up, but does it understand truly what we do, who we are, and who we appeal to? That is a very different kind of measurement system. And one of the things that we're starting to look at is the prompt to purchase pipeline, which helps to understand if somebody enters a prompt and they are looking for a very specific product or service, do we have a full understanding of that pipeline? Because it is in a lot of ways, it is still very nascent where people are coming in and they are searching. But what we are finding is that when people start with an LLM, they are 2 to 4 times more likely to go to a website that was recommended by that LLM. So we have to understand the power of these AI answer engines, and we have to realize that our brands are not fully in our control. However, we still have tremendous influence, and we need to make sure that we're talking to both the humans who need to feel something about our brand and then the agents that are actively making decisions on behalf of those humans.
The first mistake we see marketers make when they think about optimizing for GEO in a new AI search-driven environment is they think they need to create a ton of additional content. And so maybe they'll use an AI platform to generate hundreds or thousands of new pages and really dilute their brand message. We see that the content exists. It's maybe not accessible on your website, or it's internally approved but not externally surfaced. So I'd encourage marketers to think about, you've put in the work, you know who you're trying to sell and connect with, make sure that content is available, and don't get distracted creating thousands of new resources with AI generation tools.